explore the political and economic causes that led to the collapse of one of history's greatest civilizations. In 476 CE, the Western Roman Empire fell, marking the end of ancient Rome's political dominance after centuries of power. Political chaos and weak emperors accelerated Rome's decline. The crisis of the 3rd century saw 26 emperors in just 50 years, with constant military coups and civil wars destroying political stability. Emperors were constantly assassinated by their own soldiers, preventing any long-term planning or effective governance of the empire. Military generals seized power through brutal force rather than legitimate succession, creating a cycle of violence and instability. The endless succession of emperors created a leadership vacuum, with no clear rules for who should rule next. Splitting Rome into East and West weakened both halves in different ways. Emperor Diocletian split the empire into Western and Eastern halves, thinking it would be easier to govern, but this created new problems. The division meant resources and military strength were no longer coordinated, leaving the West vulnerable to attacks. The Western Empire was economically poorer and geographically more exposed to barbarian tribes crossing the frontiers. Meanwhile, the Eastern Empire thrived with wealthy trade cities like Constantinople, leaving the West to struggle alone. Rome's economy crumbled under massive debt, inflation, and declining trade. Tax revenues plummeted as the economy declined, making it impossible to pay for the military and government services. Roman emperors debased the currency by reducing silver content in coins, causing massive inflation that destroyed people's savings. Less precious metal in coins meant more coins in circulation, which led to skyrocketing prices across the empire. Constant civil wars and barbarian raids disrupted vital trade routes, strangling commerce and economic prosperity. To fund the military, emperors imposed crushing taxes that drove citizens into poverty and forced many to abandon their lands. The tax burden spiraled outward, crushing the middle class and destroying the economic foundation of the empire. Rome's once mighty legions became ineffective and unreliable. Rome relied increasingly on barbarian mercenaries instead of Roman citizens, creating loyalty problems within the legions. Roman citizens became unwilling to serve in the legions, forcing emperors to hire foreign mercenaries who had no loyalty to Rome. Eventually, barbarian generals commanded entire Roman armies, giving them enormous power over imperial politics and succession. Soldiers became loyal to their generals who paid them, not to distant emperors, fragmenting military command and control. Waves of barbarian invasions overwhelmed Rome's weakened defenses. Multiple barbarian tribes invaded from all directions. Visigoths, Vandals, Huns, Ostrogoths, and Franks all pressed into Roman territory. The Visigoths, led by Alaric, shocked the world by sacking Rome itself in 410 CE, the first time in 800 years. The Vandals conquered North Africa, cutting off Rome's grain supply and starving the capital of both food and tax revenue. The Huns, under Attila, pushed Germanic tribes westward into Roman lands, creating a domino effect of invasions. Weakened military forces, combined with massive invasions, resulted in permanent loss of Roman territory across the West. The government bureaucracy collapsed under corruption and incompetence. Government officials became increasingly corrupt, collecting taxes for themselves rather than the state treasury. Tax collection systems collapsed as corrupt officials embezzled funds and citizens refused to pay crushing tax rates. Without tax revenue, Rome's famous roads and aqueducts fell into disrepair, further damaging trade and communication. As central authority vanished, local strongmen and warlords took control of regions, effectively ending imperial rule. By 476 CE, the Western Roman Empire effectively ceased to exist. In 476 CE, the barbarian general Odoacer deposed the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, ending the empire. The final emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was just a powerless teenager controlled by barbarian generals. When he was deposed, no one even tried to restore imperial authority, showing how completely Rome's power had evaporated. Meanwhile, the Eastern Roman Empire survived as the Byzantine Empire for another 1,000 years, proving the West's fall wasn't inevitable. The fall resulted from multiple interconnected political and economic failures. Political instability, economic collapse, military weakness, barbarian invasions, imperial division, and corruption all combined to destroy Rome. There was no single cause for Rome's fall, but rather a perfect storm where each problem made the others worse. The lesson is clear. Even the greatest civilizations fall when political institutions weaken and economic foundations crumble.